Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of What's Your Story? My name is Catherine Mwangi. We're here at the Nairobi Street Kitchen in Westlands. Grateful to the management for according us the space to tape from. Now, tonight's conversation is relevant. It's timely. Why? Because we have been reading or seeing in the news what's been going on in the space of women, gender, so to speak. And we just wanted to have a wholesome conversation on the same. The topic is femicide. What is going on? What do we need to do? Why do we have our women being killed, right? So it's a hard one, but I'm hoping with our audience and the guests that we have tonight, we'll be able to just extrapolate gems that will help us going forward. So I have with me, first of all, a distinguished audience, so we clap for ourselves. I've gotten to learn some of their names, and I hope I can remember because I will want them to start the show for us, but I'll let you know how. But for now, let me introduce our guests. Mr. Daniel Juma Omondi is the Executive Director of the Global Peace Foundation, Kenya chapter that's headquartered in Washington, D.C. He's no stranger to What's Your Story. I'm glad he's here to just contribute to this conversation tonight. You're most welcome, Daniel. You look so dapper. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And your hot water is waiting for you.
Yes.
Our next guest is a nominated senator in the UDA party. She is also a strong advocate for women's rights. And I have a great feeling that she will give a strong voice to our conversation tonight. Honorable Gloria Oroba, please welcome to What's Your Story? You look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
We can only see you. Tonight we are just seeing you here.
Thank you.
And our guest, our third guest, so he's the last one I'm introducing before we get to it. Again, no stranger to this program. You saw him earlier on this year when you're discussing trauma, and that's because he was sharing from his life story. And tonight, when we had a conversation on this topic, he said to me, Catherine, I have statistics. In fact, I have statistics that will be shocking. He is the founder president of the Wellness Tribe, Mr. Danish Odongo. Hey, you look so good. The man from the lakeside, always bragging about the lakeside. But I'm so glad all of you made it today on such short notice. Thank you so much. So it's a topic, as you all know. It's no stranger to anyone who lives in Kenya. You know this is what we've been talking about from December last year and the month of January. If you watch this from abroad, you know, just follow through or just go hashtag stop killing women in Kenya. You'll just see what's been going on. But then a lot of people have had these conversations in their own personal spaces. And so we felt that we also need to give a voice. If for nothing else, just for the young men and women here and the people watching to also, you know, just feel like we've played our part in feeding into this conversation. So the first thing I'm going to do today, so ordinarily we start on this side of the show. I want to start from that side of the show. You came here early. Someone has the microphones. I don't know who. Juliet, hey, it's there. You have both microphones. Could you just take one back there? And I want to start with you, Juliet. Could you define for us what you understand by femicide?
Thank you once again. My name is Juliet. I'd the term femicide in simple terms as the intentional massacre of females.
Okay. The intentional massacre of women. I hope our panelists are listening. The gentleman next to you, maybe let me get from two guys as well.
So my name is David Kenneth, alias Director Ken. So I'll say femicide is the act of killing women due to their vulnerability and also their gender. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, wow, thanks for that. Would you like to give us a definition? Use the microphone.
Okay, my name is Abel. So, like my fellow colleague have said, is the femicide is the act of like, let's say, killing, ritual, something like that, and raping, yeah, something like all that.
Yeah, those circles.
Yeah.
The guy behind you nodded his head. What were you agreeing to? Give him the mic.
My name is Moses, and according to me, femicide is the intentionally killing of women or girls. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me come to my panel, starting with you, Honorable Gloria. You've heard the definitions. So bring it home for us. So the femicide question, because I've also seen that everyone has lots of definitions online, and your work in the space of women's rights, just being a strong voice in that space, and obviously being a Kenyan, knowing what's been going on, what is your, how do we wrap our heads around it?
There has been discussion about, is it femicide or is it just criminality? But it's femicide because the statistics are there, and as you've heard, the definition of femicide is targeted killings of women. It is a gender issue, and it is because women in this society are not valued, are not respected, they are vulnerable, they are not protected. So they're an easy target. So it's the targeted violence and death of our girls and our women. Yeah.
You said something really poignant. You said women in this society are not valued or respected. Could you kindly quantify that?
Look at how we treat our girls. Look at how we treat our women. You know, just basic things. I'm not even talking about high-end respect. Just how do we operate even in public spaces? How do we get into the elevators, to the lifts? How do we acknowledge that we have ladies, that we have girls in that space? We don't. A simple thing is even in the transport industry, how are women treated? Do you see the aggressiveness, the violence that is just that is put out towards women? And that's what I say. Generally, in the Kenyan community at this point, I'm confident to say that women are not valued and are not respected. Because if you go to different, I've lived abroad, and if you go to different communities, you'll see that girls and women are treated in a certain way. There is a level of respect. There is a level of gentleness. There is a level of awareness that this group of people are vulnerable. So therefore, if I walk into a space and I see some ladies who are struggling to get to a point of entry, there is a way that there will be, the community at large will treat them. They'll make way. They'll respect them and value them and see, okay, you're vulnerable to this extent. Can we first deal with the girls and the women? We don't have that in Kenya. That's what we've lost. Yeah.
Wow, okay. I saw the two guys on your left and right just turned to look at you. Okay, I shouldn't be laughing, but the expressions, they both looked at you and you said women in this country specifically are not respected. I'll start with you, Danish. First, you even had, was it a smirk on your face?
No, I didn't. I agree with her.
Okay. So Danish, quite the indictment.
Santa Gloria is actually right that there are very harmful gender norms that disproportionately affects women, so like many of these issues. So it could be as basic things as sexual reproductive health rights, as basic as inheritance of land, and there are a lot of rights that even though they're in the Constitution, but our women are still not fully enjoying them because of the harmful patriarchal norms that are in our country, So femicide is what they call the tail end of this small, easy to mother out to the end of it is femicide. Because it begins as maybe you give birth to a girl or a boy, and then you say that the boy needs to go to school, a girl doesn't need to go to school. You send her to be married off at the age of 13 or 12 or whatever, Ultimately, it begins to sort of normalize the idea that they are less than. Yeah, and then ultimately then the femicide, they say, is the most violent and extreme end of this entire terrible gender perspective we have towards women.
Yes. Yeah. So, Daniel, listening to that, because everything has a source, there's always a root foundation to any problem. So when you listen to what Senator Gloria has said, and Danish saying that femicide actually is the end result of all of these things that perhaps we ignore or take for granted, what do you think, in your opinion, is the root cause of it?
Let me say here that sometimes I think of myself as a feminist because I love my mother. I have a mother who gave birth to me when she was 20 years.
20?
Yes, and She's really, really worked hard to take care of our family, a big family. She has, even when my dad passed on, she has been the pillar taking care of our family. And during my time when I was growing up, I never saw my dad beat my mom. I grew up, respecting my mother. And, I was taught within the family to respect my sisters, to respect, the other gender. And so coming to your question, everything begins within the family. So if within the family you're seeing your dad mistreating your mom, you're seeing your dad beating your mom, you're seeing your sisters being mistreated, then you grow up with that, with that kind of mentality. So the root of everything starts with the family. We usually say at Global Peace Foundation that peace begins in the family, because it is in the family where you learn all these characters, all these good or bad behaviors within the family. So mine is, as I saw this story coming up here in Kenya, was that I think the family needs to get together again. We need to understand, we need to be one. Let's be the kind of family that respects God, respects one another, and through that, we are able to grow up as responsible citizens. But coming to commenting on what Gloria said, I think we have made some strides in terms of respecting, in terms of equality, gender equality. We used to have worse cases before. Of course, even in the villages, the issue of child marriages, the issue of girls not going to school, those things are rampant, and they're also still rampant in other parts of the country. But I think the country is making strides, and we are growing to be a community of nations. I used to live in Germany, and that's when in Germany I learned that women have actually more rights than men. Oh. Women have more rights. In a marriage, a woman has more rights. If a woman decides that, for example, this is on a light note. Yeah. A woman told me that if I'm married and I decide that I'm bringing, a woman decides to bring a boyfriend home. If the husband comes and finds that man home, she cannot beat, she cannot kill.
Cannot be beaten.
She cannot be beaten. So I asked her, why is that? I asked her, why is that? Because, this is our right. This is the laws. And I said, if that happens in Africa, I would be killed. Someone would die. But she said, this is not Africa. She told me this is not Africa. So they have learned to respect, to give women more right, and to understand that even within marriage does not have to be a prison. I think within a marriage you have to have equal rights. Huh? Such that when you have your wife there, you're not having her as your slave. You need to understand each other, know that you are equal partners in this arrangement, and that if there is a problem, then both of you needs to discuss and come to a solution. And then that is where it ends. It begins and falls within the family.
Yeah, so like they say, charity begins at home.
Yeah. For instance, the issue of femicide, we have laws that actually criminalize murder, criminalize violence. You don't need it to be a specific kind of violence. It's violence towards any human being, We have laws that protect the vulnerable. And, you don't need to create, what I normally tell people is, I have learned that even as a legislator, you cannot legislate good behavior. You can't. You cannot legislate good behavior. Good behavior is inculcated, as we have just said, through morals and upbringing. And the unfortunate bit about when I say that is people say, no, you're in parliament. We have sent you to create laws. We have sent you to represent women. And one thing that I think we must understand is there is no law that will force you to be a good human being. There
Oh, that's
isn't.
good.
There is a law that stops you from conducting criminal acts. There are laws that stop you from going against another fellow human being's rights. Those are laws because it's about how we coexist. But when it comes down to the culture, when it comes down to being a good human being who has empathy, who is able to socialize with people,
Yeah.
you can't legislate that. You cannot legislate that.
No.
The only thing we can do is have policies and then use those policies within the community setup. For instance, let me tell you,
Yeah.
Nyumba Kumi. Nyumba Kumi is not a law.
Yeah.
There is no law, there's no act that states Nyumba Kumi in the constitution or blah, blah, blah. Nyumba Kumi is the community. We came together and realized we have to police ourselves. We have to change the culture within our communities. So therefore Nyumba Kumi came about, yeah? And now the thing is, if you go to different areas, if you go to the village, people are saying, you know, the Airbnb situation, no one really knows who's there, who's what. If you go to the village, that is why the femicide and the rampant killings are not so high. And because Nyumba Kumi has played a critical role. Because everyone feels responsible, yeah? So I live in this particular homestead. I know who lives in that homestead. If a new person comes, we are going to call them, ask them, who are you, how are you related, why are you here? So that community, let me say, that culture, and it's like a society where we are trying to have moral upbringing collectively is actually working. Now you move to the cities, and obviously, someone will tell you, mind your own business. Why do you want to know who's coming to my house? Why do you want to know what I'm doing with my children? Yeah, maybe I'm beating my children. What is your business? Are these your children? So again, it is a culture of how we live as a community. So in terms of law, we have laws that are there that you cannot say that there is a laguna in law. You can't say that. You can't say that femicide is there because there isn't a law against murder. But what you can say also is, as we are addressing the gender issue, the issue of the vulnerable, which is the women, there is an attempt within the judicial system, actually the whole process, through the police. There's an attempt, we have the gender desks, yeah? Which were created because there was a realization that women are actually following the protocol. They are following the system in terms of, when I'm attacked, what do I do? I go to the police station. But then we realized that at the police station, there is no sensitivity around the violence that is meted to women. That's why the gender desks were created. So there are attempts here and there in terms of implementing the law, but clearly they are not working. The gender desk is not working. Clearly something extra needs to be done. But in terms of law, the laws are there.
They're there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are taking a quick commercial break here from the Nairobi Street Kitchen in Westlands. Our conversation is on femicide. You have heard what's coming up. I absolutely love some of the things I'm hearing, and others I'll obviously have to question when we come back from the break. Don't go too far.
I believe that people should get married, especially when they are finished school and maybe they are finished campus. As long as they are dating and sexually active, why don't they just get married, you know?
The culture is, girls need to be taught. But what about the murderers? What about the boys?
We have done the mathematics and we know the economic cost of sexual gender-based violence. It's huge. Like I told you, it's 64 billion shillings, according to the Gender Equality Commission. So if we just take a portion of this money and invest it in ensuring that we have proper reporting mechanisms, then
Welcome back. This is What's Your Story? I'm Catherine Mwangi. We're here at the Nairobi Street Kitchen. Grateful to the management for the space. Our conversation tonight is on femicide. I have with me on the panel the Executive Director of the Global Peace Foundation Kenya chapter, that's Mr. Daniel Juma Omondi. I also have Honorable Gloria Oroba, a nominated senator with the UDA party, so she is the law voice here. And we have Mr. Danish Odongo. He is a wellness ambassador. Sorry, he is the founder. Actually, he's a wellness ambassador. That's actually the right thing to say. But he's the founder of the Wellness Tribe, okay? And we are talking about femicide. Danish, so what do you think, again, in your personal estimate, why now? You know, how do we wake up and every week there's 2 stories of something that happened?
Actually, Catherine, I have a very controversial view around this, that there's a class dimension to how we report the death of women. So for example, when a lady is murdered in the rural areas, like this past week, when I posted that we were having this same forum at the social newsroom with Mark Masai, a lady told me that my friend died last week in Bungoma. The husband tried to die by suicide and then was arrested, was taken to the hospital. That never featured. So there are a lot of women who are dying in far-flung places, could be rural areas that we don't report. But when the death happens, and of course we understand that if it's gruesome, the media loves that, where it bleeds, it leads, we say. And so oftentimes when a murder that is, I'd call it absurd, that's what the media then focuses on. But murder should be murder. We shouldn't wait for a gruesome murder for us to make news about it. So that's one. The second thing is that I agree with Senator Gloria that we can't criminalize even behavior and say, oh, by the way, we're going to change the country by enacting more laws. However, I think we can also learn from other jurisdictions. Like, for example, in Latin America, over 14 countries in Latin America, including Guatemala, have passed femicide laws. So these femicide laws are laws that are specific to the nature of femicide in their countries. And the highest form of femicide actually is through intimate partner violence. So where you find that, oh, maybe it's your lover who is hurting you. And why it's important to frame these murders as femicide is because it's not something that you wake up and you do it. It's like the UNODC, which is a United Nations body that deals with drugs and crime, says that femicide is not just, people don't wake up and kill. It's started by abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, attempt before. The same way we talk about suicide, that suicide is not something that somebody wakes up and does. The people who have attempted suicide are much more likely to die by suicide. So when you understand that, then you can put preventive measures to avoid that from happening. So the same way, why we need to focus on femicide is because if we have proper gender deaths and we have proper reporting mechanisms, then you can understand that, oh, by the way, we are having this number of violence against women. And since we know that ultimately this is where we're going to have the highest number of femicides, then we can mitigate that. Let me also add this, that why the government needs to focus on this is because we have done the mathematics and we know the economic cost of sexual gender-based violence. It's huge. Like I told you, it's 64 billion shillings, according to the Gender Equality Commission. They quantified the report, the amount of money that we're losing as a public health endemic. So you're looking at when a woman's hands are chopped off, like that lady from Ukambani. Look at the life lost in the long run. Think about what the state needs to do to compensate for that. Think about the amount of money we're spending on litigation costs. People who are arrested and taken to prison. It is your money, your taxes that will keep this murderer in prison. So when you look at the total cost of this entire thing, it's huge. So if we just take a portion of this money and invest it in ensuring that we have proper reporting mechanisms, then we don't have to wait for the likes of that innocent 20-year-old girl to die like an animal for us to act. I think that is what the state needs to do. Yeah.
64 billion.
Yes.
And this
2021 report by Gender Equality Commission report. And a femicide law will categorize even the categories of femicide, because women are killed in private spaces, but they're also killed in public spaces. Rita died in a public space. That their women were killed in their homes. The women were killed by their loved ones. So by having femicide laws, we are going to, first of all, define what takes the threshold, because what the police are also struggling with is if assuming that a man and a woman disagree in a business setting, is that femicide? They'd say, no, this is a homicide. But if an intimate partner kills a woman, that is femicide. So to avoid all these detractors who are saying, oh, you know, I remember another person that when a man dies in a lodging having taken a blue pill, is that, how do we call it? Is it a gender death? So when we have so many people who are trying to distract us from having this conversation, the best thing we can do is to try and define this thing properly so that then we don't let what I call semantics to derail the big work of preventing death.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to do that. But you also asked a question which I think I didn't respond to. Why now? I don't think it's a now problem.
Okay.
It's always coming and going. Like if you check, there's an entire work that was done by John Alan Namo and Odipo Dev. They tracked femicide cases for the last 10 years. And there's always a spike, it goes down, there's always a spike, it goes down, there's always a spike, it goes, so it's not now. But the problem we have in this country are the owners of the camera. We love sensational stuff. So instead of contextualizing this death, so like for example, let me call out the media. People are more concerned about where the alleged head of Rita Weni was found, or how the body was done, the messages she was sending to the alleged killer before she was done. Instead of focusing on, let's look at the trend. Why is this thing happening? Can we bring in psychologists? Can we bring psychiatrists? Can we bring criminologists? Can we do a bit more in-depth analysis of why this thing is happening? Why do we love to say trivial things? So, okay, so I understand, but talking about her head in the media, how will that help the next woman who would be murdered? It doesn't help, but we love that because it's clickbait and it's good for money. So now we are loving the murder stories because they are good for media ratings and they're giving us money. But that's blood money, if you ask me.
In fact, I was talking about creative industry. The creative industry is so stuck on telling stories or giving a series of death, crime, how people are getting away with murder.
Yeah.
And we have our teenagers watching. So there is a culture, and that's, you know, culture doesn't, you don't wake up and say, now we have a culture of peace. Culture is something that is brewed, is something that is over an extensive period of time, and it is informed by what the stories that you tell, the stories that are told of you, and the stories that you create.
Yeah.
So the stories that you tell, if they're about murder and that, the stories that you create, you know, so what I want to agree with you that there's also that conversation of, instead of us focusing on the real problem, we are digressing on all sorts of things.
Exactly.
Oh, there are also men who are dying.
Yeah.
They are also, and they are not being reported. And then there is now this new thing of but let's teach our girls. There are video clips going around about fake, you know, like a setup of a blind date. And people are circulating it saying, this is a good lesson for our girls to know. Instead of teaching, I've not seen one clip of a man, a rapist or a murderer being taught a lesson.
Yeah.
So the culture is, girls need to be taught. But what about the murderers? What about the boys? Where are they learning to kill? Where are they learning to kidnap people and behead and dismember girls? Through the stories that are being told. So in the end, like I still want to bring it back, it comes to our values as a society, as a community. And when I say values, don't get me wrong, because people are saying that all this, if you look at the pattern of the men that are involved in the crime, they have been brought up by single mothers. That's a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. And it's when you say family values, and I've had Dan talk about family values, you know, there's so many different types of families. A single parent family is a family. Is a household and a family of a single parent. I was brought up by my father in a single parent household. I'm a senator. So are you going to credit it to the fact that, you know, in fact, all senators are brought up by single? No. So it is the background of the family, the character of the family members. And I just, while I wrap this up, I want to say we need to take ourselves back to the family, not in the sense that it must be a nuclear family.
Absolutely not.
And not in the sense that, because nowadays we have polygamous families, we have single parent families, we have families of only children, siblings who are bringing each other up, no parents, you know, orphans. We have all types of families.
Yeah.
So it is just the issue of, in that context of the family, what are we promoting? So I want to just put a spotlight on the national policy on family promotion and protection. There's actually even a policy that was signed and passed by the PS of State. We have a State Department of Social Protection and Senior Citizens.
Okay.
And this whole policy is a document that focuses on what we need to do to bring back sanity into our community. And it doesn't focus on just single parent or both household parents. What it focuses on, there's religion in there, there's values in there, and there's, I think now this is where we lose out. We don't implement. But in terms of legislation, it's there.
Yeah.
So the policy is there. How do we now take this policy to every home? And I still insist, Nyumba Kumi, as much as the cities don't want to address it and acknowledge it,
Yeah.
is a very good pilot program that continues to work in the villages, that continues to work in all other places except the cities. So why can't we have a model that works, that resonates with Kenyans. Why can't we now encourage and push the Nyumba Kumi into our current communities in the cities? Because that will help curb so many things. In all these instances, you'll hear, we are looking for the person, no one saw the person. Or if they saw the person, they didn't know the person. If they didn't know the person, they didn't bother to ask, who are you? Stop the person, and, there is no safeguarding measures within our communities.
Yeah.
So it becomes, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for our police, because our police have to work. They also, things need to be done there.
Yeah.
But I want to bring it back to, what am I as a Kenyan,
Yes.
as an individual, as a woman who is potentially a victim, what am I responsible for? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I want to hear from Daniel.
Thank you. I agree with the sentiment about Nyumba Kumi.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we call it Nyumba Kumi. But like like you said, in the villages, we know if you're coming in, if you have a girlfriend coming in, everyone will see, right? Everyone will see. So we have a very, very effective extended family model, where even if my brother dies, and I've lost several brothers, but his children are there. They're not out in the streets like in Nairobi. Someone is taking care of them. So that extended family model is very effective in the village. So I think learning from the Nyumba Kumi, the lesson we have is, please know your family. Know your family. Know your daughters. Know your sons. Get to know them. Who are they dating? And be free with them. Like for me, I have my children. My son is now 14. My daughter is 13. We're already having conversations. My daughter, I think she told me that, Daddy, when I turned 16, she wants to have a sweet 16 birthday party, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that was the first time I heard about that. So I had to Google it. So it's something that they know. So I think parents are not having conversation with their children, because eventually you may not want to talk to your children about their boyfriends, about sex, love, family. But eventually this is where they're going. As they grow up, they become teenagers. When they start having their periods, you need to have these conversations. Let them know this is nature, this is natural. Eventually, when you grow up, you're gonna marry, you're gonna have kids, And so I believe that parents need to even encourage their kids to, to introduce if you have a boyfriend, I want to know them. Bring your boyfriend home, bring your girlfriend home, so that we know them, so that I know that if my daughter is not here, she could be with, whoever she is with, But the thing is, we have really, really made it difficult for our kids to open up to us, and we treat like, you treat like your boyfriend's, your child's boyfriend as an enemy, and eventually, these are the people who end up killing them, beating them, But if you embrace them, if I embrace, for me, I think I already told you earlier on that I believe that people should get married, encouraged to get married, especially when they are finished school and maybe they are finished campus. As long as they are dating and sexually active, why don't they just get married, you know?
You're introducing what do you call landmines that...
Yes, I know. What I'm trying to say is that once
kill
you
them when they're married.
encourage them to start loving the concept of family, that it comes when you have a woman. She's not just your girlfriend, but she's your potential wife. She's the potential mother of your kids, you know. And also, if you are not used to respecting women, or if you are not sympathetic to someone's daughter who has been impregnated, is being violated, is going through gender-based violence, wait until you have your daughter. And that's why people always say that every man deserves to have a daughter. You know, when you have a daughter as your child, that is when you start seeing the value of respecting women. Because if you don't respect other women, someone will also violate your daughter. And just someone violating your own child, beating your own daughter, it's really crazy. So I think these experiences are really, really very, very important. But the most important takeaway, and with regards to femicide, is that we need to know. I need to know. You are going out, yes. Whom are you going out with? Where are you going? Can I reach you? Maybe if it's late, can I call? If I don't reach you, can I call the person you're going with? It should become a normal conversation. It should not be that, I read about it in the newspaper that you are killed in a Airbnb. No, I should know that yesterday she went with so-and-so, and I should be able to call that. But you see, our generation, we are not having this conversation. We have criminalized this conversation, and we are blaming girls. And I always say that in this conversation, femicide, you cannot blame the victim. The victim, you can't blame the victim. The biggest person to be blamed are the violators, the criminals. Who are these people? So instead of blaming the victim at, why did she go? It's like saying that because there are sometimes, let's say, a matatu causes an accident and kills people, so you don't take matatus. Or some of us like flying, and because an aeroplane can crash, so you don't fly. I mean, you can't do that. So this is life. This is life, and we must find a way of dealing with these issues as the nation keeps growing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Danish, you have a different opinion?
I find it, Juma is not personal, but really, I don't think you have to wait to have a daughter to respect women. And we don't respect women because we have our mothers or our sisters, but because they are human beings. It's only women who will say, I respect them because I was also raised by a mother, by a sister. 1, 2, many of these girls who die actually do that very same thing. They tell their parents where they are going and stuff like that, but that does not stop them from still being killed by these men. So even as we talk, so it might sound like these women who are dying did not do these things. But some of them die in their houses, the most safest place. Some of them die in marriages where they've been married and dowry has been paid. Some of them die in the arms of people who have written poems, bought flowers, taken them out on dates, only to kill them the next day. So marriage, love, sex, all these things will not prevent femicide. Because actually the highest number of femicide happens within intimate partner violence.
People you know.
So that's why it is important that we call it for what it is.
Yeah, we obviously cannot finish this conversation in 45 minutes, hence why we continue next week, a part 2 of a conversation on femicide. So be sure to tune in then. If you missed tonight's episode or you just cut it halfway, just find it up on YouTube. It goes up after this. And if you want to be to take part in our audience programs, just reach out to me on my social media pages. Until then, let's meet next week and just see where this goes, okay? Until then, stay safe. God bless you.